So hello, my name is Marisa Harris, and I'm from New York City. It's my belief and experience that transformative learning just almost always begins on a personal, individual level. So for me, it was an experience of shock, the likes of which I had just never experienced before in my life. So it seemed like out of the blue. 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And I was given by brilliant oncologists, if I was lucky, maybe 9 months to live. I was told there was absolutely nothing that could be done. I was medically incurable, medically untreatable, and that I was absolutely going to die. And I had just come off an experience as head of human resources for a financial services company that through this performance learning model, we had taken an underperforming, sick company from the bottom to #1 globally. And I decided to change my label. I was not going to see myself as a pancreatic cancer patient. And instead, I was just going to see myself as this sick, underperforming entity. And that I was going to go beyond and reach out to see how did people who were facing impossible odds overcome challenges that were told were impossible. And I knew that I needed to change not only my thinking, but the community of these doctors and people and statistics that only believed in one thing, that I was going to die. And also to see beyond a role that I had put myself in, and many, many patients do. And that's to see that when they get a serious health diagnosis, that they believe that the responsibility as a patient is to find the best doctor, the best medical care, and then just to put all their power, all their thinking into the hands of this medical approach. And that their role was passive and in some ways unimportant. They just had to show up. And so it looked like the worst possible thing that could happen, which was more than the diagnosis. It was these brilliant doctors saying that absolutely nothing could be done, that turned out to be the greatest gift, the gift for me of a transformative learning experience, because it forced me to turn first into myself and saying, well, what can I do? There must be something that could be done that will help me get well again. And then realizing that this was a major issue, a major challenge that Marisa alone is not going to be able to solve this, that I needed to build or find a community of people in all different areas, a holistic approach, and including that medical aspect of it, because my belief system was that part of it could still play an important role in my desire to get well, and to find medical people who absolutely believed in the possibility that I could get well again, and most of all, for me to believe in it, and to be very discriminatory in the sense that I was only going to allow people to be part of this healing team who absolutely believed and had particular resources and particular gifts and particular practices that contributed to health. And this went on over a period of time. And of course, I mean, the gift of getting well is enormous. Enormous. Every day I'm in gratitude to that. But the real gift in it was the process, the transformational process that took place inside of me as I kept on opening up and including more and more into what it means to be well and to live a life that reflects that wellness. And coming from, before I was head of human resources, I was head of training and development, and prior to that, I was a teacher. And almost from the very beginning, because the minute I changed from believing in that nothing could be done, this very narrow frame, to I kept on expanding it, I started feeling better. And I began to see results on both a qualitative and quantitative basis. And I started sharing it. And I discovered, in a sense, this new why for me, this new purpose. And that was to help people who were facing what looked like something that was terminal or impossible, where they felt completely disempowered, to help them discover that there was so much that they could bring to it. There was so much learning that could take place, that could transform, not when they got well, but that transformative learning process happens immediately as we begin to step into that process and reflect on, what does this challenge mean to me, and who am I in this? So that's how this particular, very personal situation created this deep desire and purpose of helping people transform their thinking by learning new ways of feeling, of being, of doing, expanding on who they saw themselves and how they saw themselves in terms of this challenge, and how being part of a larger community was an integral part of their healing. So this is my first time at this conference. The methodology, the research that I have used comes more from the organizational world, particularly the world of the human resource thought leaders in the world, as well as from the world of mind-body medicine. And what this being here at this conference has so, shattered walls that I had built that I didn't even know, that there are these new ways of, and new modalities of how learning that can transform not only our results but our very beingness are available, whether it's through art and music, and new ways of looking at disruption and how that becomes the curriculum. Well, I really haven't. I mean, this is my first experience of being in this community. I have just a list of research studies that I'm going to look at. I have met people who are involved in transformative learning from all different walks of life. I recently went to, right before I went to something that was offered here, and the speaker spoke about transformative learning and addiction, and so much of our thinking, we are addicted to our thinking and to the roles that we play. We're also very addicted, particularly around medical things, of relying on that medicine that's going to help us, or that drug that's going to help us, or that pill that's going to make us feel less anxious about things. And so that combination of how do we how do we use different models of transformative learning to help people step out of those paradigms, those belief systems, and those habits that actually keep them stuck in what's painful and not serving them. So until really I came to this, I mean, it's one of the gifts of being here, is that it gave me the opportunity to reflect back on the number of transformative learning experiences that have taken place in my life, but their impact, their value was negligible because I didn't take the time to really reflect on them. There were those things that I managed to get through and in some ways even surmount, but without looking back and reflecting on, well, where was I? What was that threat, that upheaval, or that very strong desire that was present at that time? And what steps, what tools, what resources, what mindset, what emotional place was I in to overcome it, or what didn't I use that looking back now could have helped me? So, for example, I think the first time that I really decided that I could do something that would change my life for the better, that I wasn't a victim of conditions. I always thought that in order for me to feel happy, in order for me to be successful, well, then conditions out there had to be good. It was when I was first married, it was my first marriage, and I was so unhappy, and I had 2 very little children at the time. And the only way that I could end that, I thought, was to wait for years and years until I was able to build up enough financial resources that I could leave. And I had a mentor who understood. She didn't call it transformative learning and transformative action, but that's what she guided me through. That what if I didn't have to wait at least 5 years? What could I do now? What steps, starting with my belief, my confidence in myself, the opportunities that I saw out there, and then building a structure. And it was perhaps in some ways even more shocking than getting well from pancreatic cancer, that I was able to, in 18 months, be able to leave a marriage with my 2 little girls, and for the first time, even ask myself, well, what would life look like if I was living according to my values and what was important to me and my interests. And it's looking back now that I see what a transformative learning experience that was. So I call myself, which in some ways, and there are many other later on, I call myself an unconscious competent, in the sense that I was doing certain things that are predictable, and those elements that lead to transformation, but I hadn't taken the time to really reflect on it, and then to look deeper into the research and others' experiences on that. That changed when I was in the world of corporate America as head of training and then head of human resources, so that I was very immersed in best practices and research, but it was about the business world. And it was only with the diagnosis that I realized that what transforms our lives in one area has the key elements that go across all situations. I mean, they're unique differences, but the basic elements of it are really the same. Oh, I'm so excited to attend this. And what my takeaways, well, first of all, I've already downloaded some research studies and some books so that I can learn about a world of transformative learning that was started here at Teachers College that I wasn't familiar with. And I'm so excited about looking at that and seeing how that can integrate with the studies that I have done in the world, particularly of business, and in the world of mind-body medicine. And the other thing I'm very excited about is continuing relationships with some people that I've met here. I would love to be part of a group here that's interested both in organizational health as well as in individual health, and to see how we can take what we've heard here and learned here and apply that in practice. That's my key thing, is to take the learnings and really bring them into communities and into settings.